Today's video is going to be number 3 in the beginner's guide, and it's going to be turning a bowl. I must stress this is one of the methods that I use. There are various methods that people use, and this is just one of them. Be a lovely piece of American walnut that winged its way from the United States of America from my good friend Tom Wilcox. Thank you, Tom. I'm really looking forward to turning this, as I've never turned American walnut before, and I hope I don't go through the bottom. And I will say now, if I do, I will still post a video, okay? A big thank you to all my subscribers. I hit the 8,000 mark the end of last week, beginning of this week, and I am absolutely blown away. The support that my channel receives is really quite phenomenal. Thank you very much, guys. Thanks very much, and what I'll do now is go over to the lathe and we'll start turning this American walnut bowl. Okay, so here we've got the blank. Before I cut the edges off just with a jigsaw. Normally I would put it onto my bandsaw circle cutting jig and make a circular bowl blank, but not everybody's got one, especially when they're starting out. So just take the edges off to make it a little safer. The original size was 8 1/4 inches along these two sides and 7 1/4 inches here, so it wasn't a square blank, and I just used the centre finder, one of these little chappies, to find the centre. These come into their own, especially when your blank is not perfectly square, because if you use the ruler edge to edge, corner to corner, it won't find the exact centre, but these will. So advantage of those. As you can see in here, I have my worm screw, which is the method I'm going to use, and that is 7mm, the thread on that. So I took a 6mm brad point bit and drilled a hole, made the depth with a bit of masking tape, and then that will then seat nice and snugly up against the face. If you have a this particular bowl blank is around 2 inches deep, so no problem there at all. If, however, it's a narrower blank, I've just made some spacers which I use occasionally for smaller bowls, and then you don't get it going in so deep. We now put the screw into the dovetail jaws and screw on the blank. Making sure that it's nice and snug against the face. There we go, that's done. So now I'll change the camera angle and we'll start turning the bowl. Okay, and what I'm going to be using is a 1/2 inch bowl gouge with a swept back grind, which is my preferred weapon of choice. Now, if you see here, we've got air, so if you start when it's spinning and the revs start off about 850 revs, something like that, whatever you're happy with. Very light cut, take off those edges. Stop and have a look. Now you can see we're starting to take the edges off the bowl now. So what we do is bring in the tool rest. It's going to be coming up like so, making sure everything's free, tighten down. Although it's a smallish bowl, I think I'll change to the larger rest. Okay. Looking nice, looking nice. Now, because I've got to be putting it into the dovetail jaws in expansion mode, so I'll be doing a mortise. This is preset to that. So what you do is just bring it right. So now we know where the mortise has got to be. So I'm not going to flatten this off yet. Now I've got a tool that actually I bought when I started turning, and to be quite honest with you, it's not worth buying, because it does a dovetail for you, an internal dovetail, but you can do that with a skew chisel. But seeing I've got it, I will use it, tighten the rest a little bit above centre, and we've got our mark. So just go in there and that gives us our dovetail. Square up this face with a pull cut. Now carry on with the shaping. Okay, now I just want to round that slightly. Yep, that's good enough, I think. Now just to make that a little deeper, and I think I've got to go flat across here now, I've decided. The outside of the ball finished. Now what we need to do is to sand him up, and lovely markings on this ball. No bells and whistles, no line burning, no patterns, nothing. I mean, it's beautiful wood anyway, and I just want to make a sort of a chunky-ish bowl. So what I'm going to do now is to sand up. I'll sand up through the grit, start off with possibly power sanding at 120 just to get rid of any tool marks. Go from 120 to 150, 180, 240, 320 and 400. I don't think I'll go to 600 on this, I think 400 will be enough. What I'm using here is a little bit of sponge inside. This is 150 grit now, I've done the power sanding, just to get it really, really smooth, get the edge flowing. That's what I tend to use. Just a little tip. Okay, so we've got the bowl sanded down to 400. Be 2 coats of sanding sealer, which will raise the grain slightly, denib that with, I'm going to be using 0000Y wool, and then 2 coats of wood wax 20. Okay, so this is my sanding sealer mix, which a lot of people ask me about, and it's basically cellulose sanding sealer mixed with cellulose thinners to a ratio of 3:1, 3 of sealer to 1 of thinners. And all that does is allows it to go on a little bit easier, and it dries a bit quicker. And what sanding sealer does, as I say, is as the name suggests, it seals the wood, seals the pores, raises the grain slightly, and then forms a protective layer onto which you can put your finish. That is quite stunning. Not the turning, but the wood. Absolutely gorgeous. Okay, so let that dry, and then denib it or cut it back, call it what you want, with, I use 0000 wire wool. You can use the last abrasive that you use, in this case 400, to denib. I just prefer to use wire wool. There are some people that think you shouldn't use it. I'm fine with that, but I prefer the result I get. So let that dry. I'll put another coat of sanding sealer mix on, let that dry. Okay, so I've got my 0000 wire wool, a little bit of wax on it. Now this denibs as well as applies the first coat of wax. No great pressure needed, but the wire wool gets the wax into the pores. Keep working it in. A little dab more maybe. Of course, you can use as many coats of wax as you want, you know, 3 or 4, but I find that 2 is more than adequate. Let that go off for a couple of minutes, then I'll buff it with a paper towel, and then apply another coat with a paper towel, and as I say, I'll come back to you when I'm buffing that up. It's the final coat of wax. Got the revs at about 1000 revs now, 1100 revs. Keep moving the wax around, moving your cloth around. Clean piece of the towel. That's taken up a nice lustre. Okay, so now with the spindle locked off, unscrew the bowl, and then we'll reverse. Take the worm screw out, and then close the jaws right down. And open the jaws. Okay, so now you just face off the front with a pull stroke. Okay, so now I take a thin parting tool just to decide where I want the rim width, and I think about there. Want nothing too thin on this bowl, as I say. So I'll just make a mark. Okay, the tool rests at a height where you're just about on centre height with your gouge. So I've got the bowl of the basic shape I want, so I'm now going to power sand it, and I'll come back. Okay, so again, sanding sealer mix, give it a good coating, get it right in there. Rub it well in. Let that dry and I'll rub that down, and I'll come back to you when I'm finishing off with the final coat of wax. Just keep moving it in and working it in. Just a simple bowl, nothing fancy, but I will say one thing, this walnut is beautiful wood to work with. Very hard, but takes a nice finish. And there is the finished bowl. And again, thank you very much for the wood, Tom. It's brilliant. Never worked with it before, as I've said. Well, I certainly hope to work with it again. Well, thank you very much for watching. I hope it was of some use to you, and don't forget to subscribe. Cheers now.